Poor and working class people are obsessed with morality and virtue because they haven't found success in their life. So they cope by moving the goalposts from external success to internal success.
What's going on? My name is Doku D, and today we're going to be talking about this popular philosopher called Jett Franzen. So I showed you a little bit of the video already, but he made a video insinuating that poor people are just jealous of rich people, and to feel superior in some way, shape, or form, they have to reach internal success as opposed to external. External success being like making a lot of money, yada, 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 and internal being like being a good person, which is the most self-report shit I've ever heard, especially because at the end of the video, he self-reports and goes, well, at least I can admit it.
And by the way, I'm not rich at all, okay? I am the working class person. The point of this video is not to say it's okay to be a bad person. You absolutely should be a good person. I just can't stand these morally righteous losers who can't admit that they'd rather be on a yacht in Italy. At least I can. At least I can. At least I can.
Yeah, of course you can admit it because that's how you feel. Your entire argument is based off what you think these morally righteous losers feel, when in actuality, you're just projecting how you really feel onto them. And the beautiful part is, I don't even have to read you or guess that it's really you who feels that way, because you literally admit it. You have no proof, you have no rational reason to believe that they are being facetious. You just contrast a good person against yourself and say, dude, there's no way you really feel that way because I don't feel that way. It makes no sense. Like, you might just be a piece of shit and you need to accept that. Like, I feel like people like this are the same exact people who come to defend or bootlick the 1%. Because if things go your way, the way you want them to go, you'll do the same as them. You'll hoard wealth. You'll spend it only on yourself and contribute nothing, but you will take, and you will take, and you will take. It's a form of projection. And it makes me sick that being a good person is so irrational. From your point of view, you can't help but try to put labels on people or try and dissect why they do good down to, well, you have no other choice to. No, dickhead, you are the real life equivalent to the troll under the bridge. If you niggas can't understand the basic concept of caring for people the same way you'd want to be cared for if you were in a bad position, you're suffering from a whole lot more than a lack of good morals. You're damn near not human. Not everybody on earth is such a sniveling, selfish sack of trash that the only way they would do good is if they don't have anything. You don't need a material reason to be a good person. It doesn't come from a lacking of something. It comes from being able to place yourself in someone else's shoes or something else's place, in reference to, I don't know, wildlife, for example. You don't need to lack talent or lack work ethic. And honestly, implying that poor people lack these things and that's why they're good or that's why they're poor is some elitist trash garbage. And that whole thing you went on about, the whole point of the video is to be bad, everyone should be good. I absolutely don't believe that shit for a second. Suggesting poor people simply don't have what it takes is fucking disgusting. Not only is it wrong, it devalues the lifetimes of people working every day in and day out, and never seeing the profits, never getting any rest. It implies that capitalism is a fair system in the first place, and the work that you put in is what you'll get back, which is not true. Some people are just born into wealth. Some people come into wealth by illegitimate means or means of capitalism, which is owning a bunch of shit and then just continuing to own more shit. Pretending like if you're poor or if you're good is some personal failure is disgusting. And it illustrates to me that you have this mask on talking about, so, well, people should be good. You don't really believe that shit. What you believe is that in comparison to being good, being bad has its own merits. And if you could choose, you would choose to be bad because it has things you prefer because you're a piece of shit. That's what you believe. You believe that people who are in bad positions deserve to be there because of their own personal faults, which is not true because you're a piece of shit. So you're so busy and focused on trying to tear the mask off of people who are good because inside you're rotten, that you've illustrated perfectly why you're not a good person. So keep projecting, my nigga. But anyways, while I was putting together what I needed to make this video, I saw another video of his, which he does, like I was speaking about earlier, bootlick the 1%. He speaks about how poor people are actually who oppress you and how the 1% are not oppressing you. Roll the clip.
Everyone always complains about the top 1% without realizing that on a day-to-day basis, it's actually the bottom 1% that are oppressing you more. The bottom 1% are the reason why you lock your doors and feel unsafe when you go outside. They're committing the majority of the violent crimes. The bottom 1% are the ones that require the most federal aid, which makes your taxes go up. The bottom 1% are the ones that exploit everyday systems, making it so much less convenient for you. The deodorant at your local convenience store is locked up because the bottom 1% are stealing it. If there is a line where there normally shouldn't be a line, chances are a person from the bottom 1% is causing some type of ruckus. In general, society has to cater towards the bottom 1% because they're the ones that are holding the rest of us back. If something is Kafka task or feels like it takes an unreasonable amount of time just to get to a simple solution, chances are it's because of them. And I'm not saying that we should show apathy or hatred towards the poor. On the contrary, I think that we should show them love and sympathy. The problem is that everyone has the courage to criticize the rich, and I'm not saying that's without reason, but it's the trend. Everyone's doing it. And no one has the courage to criticize the poor because that requires nuance and critical thinking, but most importantly, you look like the bad guy. And I'm not bootlicking the rich. I acknowledge that they're also oppressive. They have way too much political power, especially with big corporations, and just like poor people, they exploit systems and they raise our taxes. It's just that we blame 100% of our problems on rich people, but on a day-to-day basis, it's the poor people that are giving us headaches.
Oppression, according to Merriam-Webster, means an unjust or cruel exercise of authority or power, or an unjust or excessive exercise of power. So let me ask you something, Jett Franzen. What power or authority does a nigga holding up a line have, bruh? Nigga, power wasting time? Nigga got reverse King Crimson? What the fuck are you talking about? Dude, you are actually grifting. This shit is so dumb, you absolutely have to be. Because assuming you wrote a script or did a modicum of research, there is no way you come to this conclusion unless you are grifting the fuck out. Nigga, Asmongold says something exactly like this. That's how bad of a take this is. I don't even care about respecting this nigga in any way, shape, or form because shit like this does harm to the people this guy influences, their minds and shit, and does harm to the larger society. But also, this is just systemic victim blaming. And y'all who know I hate victim blaming. Every system put in place is not put in place by some dude hanging around a grocery store, inconveniencing you or making you uncomfortable. It's put in place by politicians, government officials, lobbyists, etc. When the common man exploits a system, why do you think that is? It's because of the material conditions they exist in. Poverty. Not only do they do it to survive at times, they do it to have comfortable fucking lives, which everyone should have by virtue of being a sentient being. And there's no justifiable reason they shouldn't. Insurance, unemployment, food stamps, all these things exist when you're in a time of need, and yet it's a fucking battle to access these things. Not because of some poor guy on the street who's sitting outside of a gas station or some nigga holding up a line, but because companies and governments tighten up these systems to keep money in their pockets, to have profit, to attribute to things that don't always have the little people in mind. Like, I don't know, a fucking war, or getting stupid ass people in office so that they can avoid taxes, or funding bum ass police to do nothing and protect private property owners' interests. But you're worried about Jimmy on unemployment for too long. Anyways, nigga, food shouldn't be so high that I have to deliberate about whether I can get something to eat tonight or have something to get to and back from work. Food ought to be an indisputable right, not a privilege. And we have surplus, same as shelter. Rent shouldn't fucking exist. Rich people owning properties and keeping a boot on their tenants' necks, using that money they get from them to own more properties shouldn't exist. Shelter should be an indisputable right. I shouldn't have to pay to stay alive, to stay dry, to stay fucking healthy. It's ridiculous. Insurance. I shouldn't be legally required to have it just so I can legally drive a vehicle to get to work, to get to the store for food, to enrich my fucking life, because doing so without a car in most places is nigh fucking impossible because our taxes go to bullshit like wars, not to fucking people who deserve to eat. I don't care about somebody who deserves to eat. Take my taxes for that. Back to insurance. Then when you need the damn insurance, it's a goddamn multiple month process in which you can potentially be denied, right? And that you still have to pay like a deductible, perhaps, depending on what you have. And they can still keep your fucking money. So why do we have to debate with a company about the money we give them in the first place for free until we need it? Oh, I know. It's because it's a business first, which means profit first. Profit comes before anything else, which is just evil because it's not people first. On to unemployment. As soon as you lose your means of survival, i.e. your job is gone, you're probably going to need to be supported by unemployment. Let's say a job was destroying you mentally, and so to keep your head from not having a huge hole in it from external forces, you quit the job. Unemployment don't give a fuck about none of that mental health shit, or even physical health shit to an extent. If you don't maintain work, which is often pointless, meaningless work, you will lose everything and you will die. If you have a job you hate, and every day is a battle, a struggle, and not only that, at the job you fucking hate, you don't make what you need to survive, to enjoy your time, to have a comfortable fucking life at home, it's still a fight. And what do people like Jeff have to offer you? Well, fuck all that. You better keep that shit. You better get up on your bootstraps and become a bazillionaire, because that's what us elitists do. That's what us people who deserve it do. And you lowly people who don't deserve it, who don't have talent or work ethic, you people are holding us back. Fall in line like a good little slave, and don't you dare act out of line because of all the shit being done to you on a daily basis. But oh, that fucking person who has a comparable net worth to you, who's on the fucking street, yeah, that's the person you should be mad at. You sound like a fucking idiot. People don't criticize the poor because they're not fucking idiots. People don't criticize the poor because why would you point your finger at the victim and how they act when someone is actively doing something to them to put them in the position to do that shit, to heighten the chances that they do that shit. If somebody puts you in a hot, boiling pot of oil, can they be mad at you when you burn? When you scream and cry and beg to be let out? When you get out a couple of times and then they put you back in? Can they be mad at you when you burn, when you melt? No, they can't. That's why it's unproductive to continue to point the finger at the victim, because the victim is only responding. What about the thing causing the fucking issue? The thing causing the fucking issue is these rich, selfish pieces of garbage. I don't give a fuck about what some does on the street corner. I don't give a fuck about what some in a line. I don't give a fuck about a nigga extorting this, extorting that when it comes to a system, because the actual fucking problem is the system and the people who create it, the people who maintain it. And they don't maintain it because they need to. They do it because they want to. Because what do they care? They've already won. And they don't give a fuck about anyone else. That's why they're pieces of shit. That's why people point their fingers at the 1%, because what they do is unnecessary. They have an unnecessary amount of capital, an unnecessary amount of money that could be put towards things that should be necessary, like the betterment of people. Because if you were in their position, you would want that for you. But because you come from a place of privilege, because you lack the ability to empathize for other people, you can't understand that. And instead of just accepting it and changing as a person, you would rather project it onto other people and tell them they're stupid. And this is the last thing I'm going to say, and it makes it so much worse. I absolutely can't stand a fence sitter. You keep adding on these little tack points. Well, not to say that we shouldn't be kind, or not to say we shouldn't have empathy, except that's exactly what you're doing when you point the finger at the victim for why they do what they do, when there is a perpetrator who's doing it to them. That's exactly what you're doing. You're not having empathy. There's not some magical both sides every single fucking time. One side is wrong. That's it. One side has the boot and the other side has the neck that is being stepped on by the boot. It's that simple. What you're complaining about is inconveniences, not fucking oppression. You need authority and power to do oppression. Oppression is a continuous just press onto you that prevents you from living life. Like, this is inconveniences, and you know that, and you're grifting. And even if you don't actually believe what you're saying, you're still a fucking idiot for saying it in the first place, because you're purposefully informing people who can't quite apply that nuance and critical thinking you're talking about yet. The irony of you even bringing up nuance and critical thinking while simultaneously saying the dude down the fucking street who yells a little too loud is what's impressing you. Anyways, that's got to be the end of the video. Very annoying to keep hearing this talking point because it's really, 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 really dumb. But yeah, I hope y'all enjoyed this video. Make sure you like, subscribe, comment, do all those wonderful, beautiful things. I would really appreciate it. Hype the video. That really helps. If you want to take an extra step, I have a membership. Membership start at $1. You can even get a tier of my membership where, I can draw you something to your personal liking, or you can get a tier where you'll have access to my art talks, where I talk about my art, just kind of speak about the process and what I'm going through. And one of those videos will drop very soon. So, but with that, don't be like this guy. He's not a philosopher. He is a grifter. And I'm gonna see y'all niggas later. I'm gonna let the art play. Peace.